With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 82, tonight clear with a low around 53, and Wednesday sunny with a high near 71. Don't just mow your lawn, love it. Natural Lawn's organic-based treatments have been creating greener, safer lawns for over 30 years. With expert soil testing and no contracts, you get healthier grass and fewer chemicals. Plus, cleanup is part of every visit. Go barefoot this summer. Start at naturallawn.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live at 2 p.m. from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, weeknights at 8 p.m. Welcome to the Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker. In studio with me, executive producer Jim Pounds.
Hey, all.
And Patrick is in the control room today. Hey, Patrick.
Welcome back, everybody.
Well, I know, right? It's just every day. Welcome back to all of our listeners. Our call-in number, if you're listening in the 2 p.m. hour, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. With the news today, I'm already a little punchy. So lucky for us, Tammye Nash, managing editor for the Dallas Voice, returns to join us in the second half of the hour to talk about the Dallas Voice's coverage of a dangerous new bill in Texas that would give parents permission to taunt and abuse their kids just for being LGBTQ. Interesting reporting from Minnesota about how their schools many of them do not have library media specialists, despite a law requiring it. And this has implications for LGBTQ book bans. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is running for president, even if he's not saying it. You heard it here first. I don't know if we're breaking that news, but I think it's very clear evidence from his recent speeches and a very vociferous defense of the LGBTQ community. I'm going to have some juicy quotes from a recent speech he gave in New Hampshire.
Of all
First
things.
primary in the country. In Florida, good news to talk about today. Advocates have crushed every piece of anti-LGBTQ legislation that was introduced into their legislative session this year that ended this past Friday. But first, we have to talk about some breaking news out of the Supreme Court, which has officially gone off the rails. About an hour ago, the Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration to begin enforcement of a ban on transgender people in the military. Why I say they've gone off the rails is that they're letting it happen while simultaneously letting the legal challenges to it proceed. Which doesn't make any sense to me of, okay, you're going to let the administration identify all these trans service members, kick them out, and then maybe a couple months later, it'll be ruled unconstitutional. And so, okay, well, we're going to rehire them. Or are you basically just telling the federal courts right now, it doesn't matter what you do, it's going to come to us and we're going to get rid of it. So we're telling you, the courts, how to rule.
It flies in the face of any sort of legal common sense. That's not how these agreements work. You stay something until you resolve the legality of it. And then you allow the, ramifications to fall. But like you say, this is a biased ruling that rules against, as though trans people have no standing. And good luck if they're going to try to establish it after the fact. So I'd say all the trans people that get thrown out of the military, come to Minnesota, y'all, and we'll find a good use for your skills. That's what it's disgraceful. But the saying disgraceful in the U.S. Supreme Court in the same sentence is redundant. So
the court's liberal justices, the three of them, said they would have kept the policy on hold.
Of course. Well, we can't expect that the country we knew is going to exist while the fascist is trying to ruin it. So we have to come up with a plan B. And the plan B is the trans folks that are thrown out of the military have great skills. We need them, and they've got 19 states to go to, and they'll be welcomed. And that's all we can do is in response.
This is basically, we talked about Supreme Courts yesterday, or was it last week, who don't understand science.
Or the economy.
And there was the state Supreme Court in Ohio was like, yeah, you can go ahead and start a ban on gender affirming care for kids, people under 18.
Right.
But, there's the legal challenges. So, we'll let the ban go ahead and then we'll let the courts figure it out. What?
Right.
Well, and this is the thing that gets me is that are these courts, these conservative courts, doing this to basically signal to lower courts that it doesn't matter what you do. We've already decided we're going to let this go ahead. So you just better rule the way that we want you to.
Yeah, I think it's disrespectful to the rule of law. It's disrespectful to all of the other courts. I mean, we had this conversation about Rochester where the person least qualified to make a decision makes a decision and undermines 25 other people that are more qualified to make the decision than he was. So I think we're in that moment. I think we're going to have to make a plan B while we regroup. And when we come back with a vengeance, this will not stand. It's the only way I can think about it. This will not stand, and we're going to make sure that it doesn't. But people are going to have to protect themselves in the right now and go into a holding pattern. A lot of federal employees are going to work for state government. So some of that capability is not going to be lost. And I hope the trans soldiers that are thrown out, making our military less able to do its job, less qualified to do its job because of the incompetence in the federal government. We'll hope they don't give up. We hope that they stick with it for the best way that they can and survive till to fight a better day.
One last thing here before we move on. In the case that the Supreme Court acted on today, the U.S. District Court Judge Benjamin Settle in Tacoma, Washington, had ruled in favor of several transgender military members who had been serving for a number of years, for a long time, in the armed services.
Right.
Noted that the Trump administration offered no explanation as to why trans troops who've been openly able to serve with no evidence of problems should suddenly be banned. Which is a Republican appointee from George W. Bush and was a former captain of the U.S. Army. Said, no, we can't do this. And now the U.S. Supreme Court then says, yeah, go ahead. Just, do it.
Just bias, just hate. It's a hateful bunch of people, a lot more hateful people than we thought in the country. And we're going to have to do an end around and wipe these people out. And by that, I mean out of office. And we're going to have to rebuild this country. It's going to be very difficult.
I hope that in a few years, when the Supreme Court has given Trump everything, that Joe Biden and all of those Democrats are saying to themselves, we did the right thing. We didn't pack the court, no. That was what we were supposed to do. Like, okay, great. Well, this is a court that clearly has gone off the rails, has been showing it for years now.
Well, Clarence Thomas enjoys his free trips to, wherever. The disgrace of that individual justice, and there's plenty others to go with it, is laughable. He's laughable.
The idea that we can't do Supreme Court reform, we just have to let it play out the way it is. I hope that they feel vindicated about that.
Well,
I hope they feel vindicated about that, and that they can stand by that decision.
Right.
As we watch the court literally hand over the republic to a bunch of neo-fascists. Anyway, speaking of neo-fascism, Florida. The Florida legislature wrapped up its work last Friday, but Equality Florida is reporting that their coalition of LGBTQ and allied folks have stopped all 4 anti-LGBTQ bills from passing into law this year. 4 is a notable number. I'll tell you why in a moment. These proposed bills were a pride flag ban that would ban all of government agencies, including public schools and universities, from displaying any flag that represents a political viewpoint, including pride flags. Utah passed one of these a couple of months ago. This was defeated. There was a Don't Say Gay or Trans at Work bill that aimed at censoring public workplace discussions of LGBTQ issues and enabling harassment of trans employees. That was stopped in its tracks. There was an anti-diversity in local government, a bill attempting to ban cities and counties from recognizing, supporting, and protecting the LGBTQ community and other minorities. That was stopped. And then finally, banning diversity and equity in state agencies, a bill that would defund a broad range of activities and positions under the guise of banning DEI in state agencies, and would ban state contractors and grantees from using state funds for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Also stopped. Executive Director of Equality Florida, Nadine Smith, said that more than 16,000 Floridians sent emails to legislators. At their Pride at the Capitol event, participants met face-to-face with more than 325 legislators. 400 grassroots lobbyists came to Tallahassee for their largest advocacy week ever. And over the past 2 years, Equality Florida has grown its base by more than 165,000 people. And now it's a total of almost 500,000 people, Floridians strong.
Good job.
I said there were four. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it proves that getting in their face, and I mean literally getting in their face, works.
They have a super majority, so all the more impressive that they have a super
Good
majority. I said earlier that there were 4 bills this legislative session, anti-LGBTQ bills. How many were in last year's session in 2024?
Well, I'll guess 3.
Want to try again?
10?
22.
Oh, that's a lot of hate.
22. How many did the LGBTQ and allied community stop last year?
I'm going to say they stopped half of them.
21.
Oh, wow. That's a good job.
They stopped 21 of 22. After the election last November, Equality Florida was saying that they expected that it was going to get really ugly because the state really veered towards Trump being called within minutes of their polls closing. And so they were really worried about the number of bills that were going to come in this year.
Yeah.
There were only 4, and they were very happy. They stopped all 4 of them. Clean sweep.
If you think about American elections, they're not decided by people on the right or people on the left. It's the independents who are, frustratingly varying in what they believe or how they vote or split ballots and all that baloney. But those are the people that any of these issues, our issues, the other issues, are considering what's fair, what's right. And most independent people, I think, are not as fixated with gay people as the Republicans are. They probably are more concerned about kitchen table issues. And when the Republicans are putting 22 bills out there, they're not doing their blankety blank jobs. They're dealing in some other kind of voodoo nonsense rather than doing the hard work of legislation that's going to help the average Floridian or American. So the Republicans have revealed themselves to be almost worthless in terms of really dealing with problems seriously, with substance. And that's a good example. 22 bills of wasted effort in Florida legislature.
We're going to take a short break here. Check out more progressive talk and news at am950radio.com and heartlandsignal.com. You're listening to The Gailey Show.
Hey, it's Tom. As the birds begin to sing and the days grow longer, there's no better time to spring into savings than now with All Energy Solar. Spring is perfect for home improvements, so why not choose a project that saves you money and helps create a cleaner, greener planet? While solar panels require an initial investment, the savings on your energy bills quickly add up. With a lifespan of at least 25 years, your system from All Energy Solar can save you tens of thousands of dollars over time. Act now and you can still take advantage of the 30% federal tax credit. Plus, you may qualify for additional incentives depending on where you live. The future is uncertain, but with solar energy, you can lock in your energy rates for years to come. With All Energy Solar's experience and expertise, they'll guide you toward a greener future and unlock the full potential of solar power. Take the first step toward energy independence and a greener future. Get a free consultation today at allenergysolar.com. That's allenergysolar.com.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease. It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
Artworld is celebrating its 30th year. This popular free event is the largest open studio tour in the nation, a fan favorite with art lovers, families, and fun seekers alike. With 1,400 artists and 100 locations throughout Northeast Minneapolis, you'll meet potters, painters, weavers, woodworkers, and more. And you'll find all types of art at all price levels. Then there are the terrific bars, restaurants, and breweries in Northeast, plus music, entertainment, and art demos. With Artworld, you're set for 3 days of wonder. Start planning now. Artworld is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, May 16th, 17th, and 18th. Visit NEMA.org. That's NEMAA.org for details. You'll find an artist directory, maps, dining and brew guides, event and music schedules, even info on Metro Transit passes and trolley rides. Plus, new this year, a passport app can win you prizes, a commemorative sculpture and raffle, a special beer from prize, and 30 featured artists of Artworld. That's May 16th through the 18th in Northeast.
If you're the parent or guardian of a queer young person, there's an opportunity for you to make their future brighter by filling out a community needs survey conducted by the Council on LGBTQIA2S+ Minnesotans. The council wants to know what the needs and experiences are of younger queer people. The survey is confidential and available at mnqt.info/survey. Let's address the erasure and isolation that young queer people can experience by creating a more inclusive Minnesota. Go to mnqt.info/survey to get started. Welcome back to The Daily Show. I'm your host, John Parker, joined by Jim Pounds, executive producer. It is 21 minutes past the hour. Our call-in number 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Here in Minnesota, there is a story that just came out. Minnesota schools do not have library media specialists despite the law requiring it. Mike Moen from Minnesota News Connection of Public News Service has more for us. I think, hang on, we're gonna get that clip lined up here, and we'll get it playing for you. Just a second here. It is a
K through 12 school libraries to be staffed by a licensed media specialist, but survey results indicate a significant percentage of districts have difficulty in this area. This spring, Wilder Foundation researchers and the entity working with regional library systems shared survey results from schools around Minnesota. 46% of respondents said they don't have a licensed professional managing their library media centers, citing budget constraints and a lack of qualified candidates. Ashley Dress with the State Southeast Library System says well-resourced centers are linked to improved student achievement.
They're often centers for collaboration, technology access, and developing research skills. There's also evidence that school libraries help to address educational inequities.
But as the survey shows, too many schools don't have a full-time staffer trained in enhancing this programming. In many cases, these specialists are part-time, with teachers or other support staff filling in as needed. Minnesota's requirement surfaced in 2023 when the state approved increased aid to close gaps. But this year's school library funding is swept up in spending cut talks at the Capitol. And despite the aid that was approved, the feedback revealed a lack of awareness among some library officials about the extra support. However, researchers say there's nothing to suggest funds are being misused. And Wilder Foundation researcher Anna Granius says there are great examples of districts benefiting from the move. Still, she suggests current specialists are stretched thin.
Many LMSs split their time across more than one school. Of those who are working in more than one school, about half are working in 2 media centers, but nearly 1 in 5 are serving 5 or more media centers.
And nearly 2/3 of schools don't have library services with paid staff available to help students before or after school. And while issues at the state level are sorted out, the analysis recommends districts do all they can to hire full-time specialists for their school libraries. And they're urged to give them enough support so they're not pulled away from the main function of their job. This is Mike Moen for Minnesota News Connection. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
And thank you to Minnesota News Connection for that survey. Their trust indicators actually very important so that you know how the quality of journalism is produced there at Minnesota News Connection and Public News Service. We're really glad to feature their reporting. I was concerned about that story when I first heard it because there is the ban on book ban law that went into effect also last year or the year before, where in it saying that libraries have to be managed by folks who have degrees and are specialized in this. So to see then that the library media specialist role is vacant in so many libraries. Now, that doesn't suggest that the library isn't managed by someone with a credential, but to have that particular role, which is legally mandated to be vacant, is super frustrating because it can also allow for the subversion of the book ban law.
Well, you and I have talked before, you can have a law, but how it's actually playing out in reality can be a little different or a lot different. And this sounds like it's a lot different, but they also said it's lack of qualified people, which nobody can judge that. You just have to figure out how to counter that pipeline. But yeah, that's
Now,
unfortunate.
That I am empathetic to, having worked in 2 community colleges, and you create new roles, and because there's a new role,
Right.
that doesn't necessarily mean, like, if you're in if you're in the Twin Cities, if you're in Chicago, you know what I
Right.
mean, if you're in a metropolitan area,
Right.
more likely that you're going to be able to source people that have the relevant
Right.
degree, and also just the background to the professional background to do the job experience.
Right.
But so I am very empathetic to that when you're in in more rural areas, and you have to also just attract people to want to go and to live there. But it when I read that there were folks that didn't even know the funding was there, I found that to be somewhat
You don't like to hear
concerning.
that. No. Yeah.
And when I see also that a job is being mandated that by law, that also makes me go, okay, well, what is the Department of Education doing to help with that? Like there are laws requiring that you have ADA laws, American Disabilities Act. You have to have folks at colleges. You have to have those roles, people who know how to interpret that and to provide accessibility options and advise students and advise teachers on how to do accommodations.
Yep.
Like that is a required role.
Yep.
So it is. It makes me worried because we also had earlier this year Minnesota State Senator Wadzinski talking about how the enforcement of the book ban law was unclear. Like we needed a test case, and finally, we have a test case when St. Francis schools here locally in the Twin Cities, they were banning books, and the ACLU and also the teachers union here in Minnesota, they have filed suit. So we will see what is happening there. We've reached out to the ACLU for comment. We haven't worked out yet the interview that we want to have with them regarding the lawsuit. But that was also something that kind of came up of, okay, well, how do we enforce this law if we pass the law? Like, to me, it seems weird that we would have to file a lawsuit. I would have expected that a challenge could go to the Minnesota Department of Education, and they could have mediators that would resolve the issue for us, as opposed to having to go through all of the work of a lawsuit.
Right.
It's very, and also just administratively speaking, please create a department and resource it. You know what I mean? I'm sure that you would need to do that within Department of Education, as opposed to constantly putting more hats on people to wear. But it just, yeah. We've talked about this, and this was an important story, but I also want to talk about J.B. Pritzker, Illinois governor, who clearly is running for president, rather. Last week, he was speaking at the New Hampshire Democratic Party's annual McIntyre-Shaheen dinner. Just some quick, fun quotations from there. He was saying, these same do-nothing Democrats want to blame our losses on our defense of Black people, of trans kids, of immigrants, instead of their own lack of guts and gumption. He talked about Americans who have used their time to help organize protests, leveraging communication channels such as social media platforms to inform people about the current administration's attacks on LGBTQ friends. And he said, those are the stories that I want to share. No pontification, no punditry. There are no tortured op-eds about party messaging, no hand-wringing over which battles to pick. When you see a danger, you yell for help at the top of your lungs. Something I thought was very interesting, and we're coming up on a hard break here, is never in my life, he said, Have I called for mass protests for mobilization? But I am now. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Tammye Nash, managing editor of the Dallas Voice, will be joining us. You are listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 Radio and WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
There's something special about a night that brings people together, and the Stronger Together Pride Benefit Concert and Dance Party does exactly that. On Thursday, May 30th, the Stronger Together Pride Benefit Concert and Dance Party brings music, energy, and unity to the Granada Theater in Uptown. This 21-plus event is hosted by Nina D'Angelo. The lineup features Beach Boylos, pop rocker Ryan Cabrera, and a late-night dance floor powered by DJ Shannon Blowtorch. Twin Cities Pride is working to close a $200,000 shortfall after losing longtime sponsors who pulled back support. This event is a powerful way for the community, supporters, allies, and everyone who believes in Pride to step up and help close the gap. Let's stand up. Let's turn out. Let's dance like the future of Pride depends on it, because it does. With multiple ticket types, there's an option for everyone to take part. Presented by Richard Herod III with Car Guy Concierge. Tickets and details at tcpride.org. That's tcpride.org. Support Pride, celebrate community. We're stronger together.
Hello, Minnesota. This is Tom Hartman, and you can catch me every weekday from 11 to 2 right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's smart radio for smart people.
Hi, I'm Scott Shambot from Shambot Family Dentistry. We're the fear-free, shame-free dental office. We know dental anxiety and dental phobia are real. We'll take the time to get to know you and give you what you need to be comfortable at all times. We offer free nitrous oxide laughing gas and have high-tech options to help you feel calm and relaxed during your appointments. We'll help you get through every appointment in the most pain-free way possible. If you're having a dental emergency, we'll try and get you in the same day you call, because we don't like to see anyone in pain. As my daughter Rachel says,
if you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been going to Shambot Family Dentistry for years. They get me in last minute when I'm in pain and make regular checkups easy and comfortable.
Shambot Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblotfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH. AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
History Theater presents Whoa Nellie, the outlaw king of the wild Middle West. Saddle up for the brand new musical about Nellie King, the wily and scandalous female cowboy detective who became a Minnesota media icon in the 1800s. This vaudeville-inspired production blends humor, music, and a bold story about fame, identity, and truth. Join us for the premiere of this original show running May 17th through June 8th in downtown St. Paul. Learn more and get your tickets today at historytheater.com. That's historytheater.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 82, tonight clear with a low around 53, and Wednesday sunny with a high near 71. Experience live music like never before at Crooner Supper Club. Enjoy top-tier performances in the main stage showroom, Dunsmore Jazz Room, or Under the Stars at the Belvedere. Plus, Maggie's Piano Lounge is always open with no cover charge. Find more details at croonersmn.com.
Broadcasting live in the 2 p.m. hour from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, weeknights at 8 p.m. Welcome back to The Gailey Show. It is 33 minutes after the hour. I'm your host, John Parker. Jim Pounds, executive producer, in studio with me.
Hey.
Well, we are having some technical difficulties with having Tammye Nash here, the managing editor for the Dallas Voice. So we are trying to connect and see what is going on to have her on the show. But in the meantime, we will carry on.
Well, we can talk about Governor Pritzker if you like, or we can talk about Rite Aid. I have an interest in talking about the implosion of the Rite Aid drugstore chain.
We were sort of racing past that Pritzker story. So while we're waiting for Tammye to connect, so Governor J.B. Pritzker was at the we did rush through this. The New Hampshire Democratic Party's annual McIntyre Shaheen dinner, and was giving some pretty strong sentiments about the Democratic Party and where it should be going. I have been noticing, and I'm not the only one in noticing that it's been pretty progressive, the things that he's been saying, even though he's a billionaire. But I mean, his the things he's been talking about have been very progressive in nature, more squarely liberal, left-leaning, progressive side of the party than the centrist side of the party.
Right.
So that's been really lovely to see, and also to see him saying things like, Democrats wanting to blame losses on defending Black people, trans kids, and immigrants, as opposed to their own, as he put it, direct quote, their own lack of guts and gumption, I think is very, very interesting language to be throwing out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you and I have talked about it's hard to put an exact reason on the losses, assuming all those losses are correct. And I don't have any evidence that they aren't, but
racism and sexism,
I think, was a big factor. But in the state, I mentioned this before, in the state of Arizona, there were 600,000 more people who voted for abortion rights in Arizona than voted for president. So a whole bunch of somebodies, I'm going to say they're independents, but I don't know. There's been talk about people who didn't show up to vote. In that case, people showed up and half voted. And when you don't do your job, that might have had to do with why we lost the state of Arizona. I don't know that I don't know that would have made up the entire difference. But the same thing has been said about Black counties in Northeast North Carolina whose turnout was low versus historical numbers, and that might have had something to do with the outcome in North Carolina. So I don't think we can find a single thing, but there's no question that it's both the leadership or lack of leadership, good leadership in our party, but it's also individuals within our party who don't fully buy in to what I think our party stands for. And I don't know what to do about that.
About North Carolina, I want to say for Nevada, in Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Georgia, Kamala Harris outperformed Joe Biden. So she got more votes than Joe Biden did in 2020 in each of those states. Now, Nevada was only like 1,500 votes. In Wisconsin and North Carolina, it was 30,000 more votes than Biden got in 2020. And it was over 70,000 more votes in Georgia that she got over Joe Biden in 2020. So I think if they were tracking those internal numbers, I can see why they were very excited about their chances in the race. And it just turned out there are a bunch of racists and sexists that didn't want that to happen. But looking forward, because that's, I think, what the centrist Democrats want to do, is they want to keep picking apart what happened last November.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm really interested about J.B. Pritzker and AOC and Bernie Sanders. Say what you will about all three of them. They are out there getting big protests. They're getting people showing up. I mean, Bernie Sanders has said, I've never gotten numbers like this at rallies before in my life. You have AOC on every channel that people will give her, and also in person at rallies. I think and that's something that J.B. Pritzker said at this dinner in New Hampshire. And I just want to read the quote directly. Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that with every megaphone and microphone that we have, we must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
Right. Well, there's no question that kind of aggressiveness, which they've been using against us, at least since 2016 and probably back to the George I dynasty, is unfortunately the world we're in. We're going to have to, it's a knife fight, as they say, and we're going to have to act like it's a knife fight, because that's the only way that I think we're going to equalize the hatred, the literal hatred that they have for so much of America. And so we're going to have to realize we're not in a polite, take the moral upper ground anymore. We don't have the moral high ground. It doesn't matter. What matters is who's alive at the end of the street fight. So that's what we're in, and we're going to have to fight like our life depends on it, because I think it does. I think our country depends on us being willing to fight in ways we haven't fought or resisted or battled, whatever that exactly means, before. Imagine something that you never thought you would do. Imagine being in a situation you never thought you would be in. Imagine that that's possible for you or your neighborhood or your family. Imagine something almost unthinkable, because how many unthinkable things have we seen?
Final juicy quote that I liked from his speech. They must feel in their bones that when we survive this shameful episode of American history with our democracy intact, because we have no alternative but to do just that, that you will relegate their portraits to the museum halls reserved for tyrants and traitors. Governor J.B. Pritzker speech at the New Hampshire Democratic Party's annual McIntyre-Shaheen dinner.
Well, then can I speak about Rite Aid? A lot of people have Rite Aid drugstores where they live. They're in 15 states, and our present...
yeah, I don't know about this.
Well, they've declared bankruptcy in the past, and now the horrific dealing of the economy by the Republicans has driven them to say, you know what, we're gonna get out of business. We're gonna close.
Oh, they're shutting down?
And the ones that we can't sell, we're going to just close. So they're going to try to sell them off piecemeal. So they're going to liquidate. Rite Aid is going to liquidate 1,245 stores.
Is that because of the tariffs?
I don't know that it's because of the tariffs. I think they were already in a precarious situation, but the economy is so terrible and getting worse that they're not optimistic, right? So they said, we're not going to try to keep pumping up this thing. We're going to walk away. It's 15 states, 1,245 stores. I'm sure some of the stores will be bought by individual people, and some people might keep their jobs. But that's a very bad omen in with this supposed Republican good for government, which has been, in fact, the opposite of being good for government. And now we have a major brand walking away. So put that in your Republicans are good for business pipe and smoke it.
Oh, well, if anybody walks out of this 4 years and says that the Republicans and MAGA are good for business, we will have failed as progressives and Democrats and any coalition of the center left. That idea needs to be thoroughly expunged from the American lexicon.
And I think the stock market has been down today and continuing. You know, when people in business, if you understand business, they don't like uncertainty, and there's nothing but uncertainty right now. So it's dropping again, just because of the fear that something might get worse.
Okay, well, I see here that we have joining us from Texas, Tammye Nash, managing editor of the Dallas Voice. For 4 decades, the Dallas Voice has been more than just a newspaper. It has been a beacon of hope, a platform for advocacy, and a mirror reflecting the diverse voices of our LGBTQ community. You can read all of their news and reporting at dallasvoice.com. And while you're there, be sure to join me and 20 other thousand subscribers to their weekly e-newsletter, which has the latest news, things to do, photo galleries, and more. Tammye, welcome back to The Gailey Show. Oh, we can't hear you, Tammye.
We can see you.
Is Mercury in retrograde?
It is, I'm sure. We know she's working on it.
Tammye, you need to unmute yourself.
I think that's what she's trying to do. Otherwise, you have to do an
It
interpretive
says that their
dance.
mic isn't connected.
Oh. Well, I don't know what that means. Mic isn't connected. We can hold up signs, I guess. And
I don't know if in the chat, Tammye, if you can see in the chat there, maybe Patrick, you can help out in the chat. Do you see that on the side there, Tammye?
Well, certainly, I don't know the situation in Dallas well. I used to do business in Dallas and travel there for business, but Dallas was one of these places that I loved because it was a big city, but it's a little bit like Minneapolis, St. Paul, that there is a big cosmopolitan city of Dallas. And then there's also the more little provincial cow town, Fort Worth, and as we have St. Paul, where they used to do the stockyards and they used, all the agricultural stuff used to happen. So Dallas Fort Worth is one of those two city combinations. I think Dallas and Fort Worth are actually quite a bit further away from each other than Minneapolis and St. Paul are, but it's the same kind of bifurcated, two personality kind of places. But the Dallas side is great and very cosmopolitan, and I don't know how they survive in that state, but I guess you don't have any choice, and some people don't have any choice. But I'm curious to hear what she's going to talk about is on Dallas folks' minds.
Well, we still have some technical difficulties going on, which is a bummer. Something that I did see in the news today while we're waiting for that technical stuff to get resolved here is that in Canada, Alberta apparently didn't like the province of Alberta, didn't like the response or the results of the election. And they are saying that the premier there is saying that she will allow a independence vote if the number of signatures are achieved, which I thought was really fascinating to hear that. I mean, folks, I don't know if they'll remember that Quebec, French Canada, has tried to declare its independence from Canada, and both of those votes failed. So this is a new reporting from the AP as of today that Canada's oil-rich province of Alberta said they will hold a referendum on separation from Canada next year if a citizen-led petition reaches the number of signatures.
Well,
so this is 1 week after Prime Minister Mark Carney led the Liberal Party to a fourth consecutive federal government. It also comes as the U.S. president is threatening Canada with tariffs. And so it's like, okay, is this weird thing that we're seeing here where they're going to try to make part of Canada? Like, what is Alberta going to do? Join and become the 51st state?
I don't think any of this is serious. I think what he's doing is serving Vladimir Putin, which is distract this country while Putin runs roughshod over Europe using North Korean troops, apparently. And I think Trump is just doing a distraction. That's all he does mostly is distract, make outrageous statements and then run away and make more outrageous statements like a 5-year-old. And so I think he's just keeping us dithering about whatever latest nonsense he says while Putin does really bad things in Europe and keeps us distracted from it. Plus, anybody that comes into a situation and says, I'm going to anger all of our friends, I'm going to move into a neighborhood and I'm going to make everybody angry at me, is some kind of a pathological creature, right? I mean, what is the pathology of that? To accomplish what? Our lifelong allies versus our lifelong enemies, and he's flipped the switch.
I don't know, but we are going to take a break here. There is still lots to get to on the Gailey Show. For more news and analysis, you can also go to our Blue Sky account. We are at thegaileyshow.org on Blue Sky.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, weekdays at 5 p.m. On our show, you'll hear about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. Weekly correspondents like Dr. Stately, State Senator Mary Kunesh, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake update us with the latest news from Turtle Island. Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Listen weekdays at 5 p.m. or watch the show on Native Roots Radio social media accounts. Ho-wah!
Hi, this is Laura. Listen to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. or anytime via podcast. Our individual health is connected to the health of each other and connected to the health of the earth. We know the problems with the dominant food system: climate change, deadening soils, nitrates in the water, factory farming, injustice, concentration of wealth. How do we both as individuals and as a community step up and support a living food system which honors the earth? Tune to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. and remember to support your independent farmers.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com.
Welcome back to the Daily Show. It is 9 minutes before the top of the hour. In studio here with Jim Pounds, my executive producer. We're still having some communication stuff with Tammye Nash. Haven't connected yet. You can call in. Tammye, you can call in too. The phone number is 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We could run the interview that way, but also hear your thoughts. Folks who are listening about the news of the day, that number is 952-946-6205.
What were the stories you were going to talk to Tammye about?
Well, hopefully we'll get that sorted away. There was an interesting legislation that was put up in front of the Texas legislature. One was really scary about letting parents be able to denigrate their kids for being LGBTQ. Okay. I think we have Tammye by phone now. Tammye, can you hear us?
Here I am.
Hi, Tammye.
So sorry about all of this.
No, I'm not sure. We've been. Oh, is that me echoing?
Yeah, probably. You want to turn your radio off, maybe?
Let's do this. How's that better?
There we go.
That sounds better.
All right.
It sounded like World War II there for a moment.
Yeah.
Does it feel like that in Texas? As a queer person.
Kinda.
So, Tammye, can we start with HB 1106? This was a bill in front of the Texas legislature. It's becoming harder to make me speechless these days because of how cynical I am with the Republicans. But this bill, flagged by Equality Texas, did that. Can you tell us about it?
Tell me which one that one is. I don't remember.
1106. This is the one about parents being able to not only send their gay and trans children to conversion therapy, but to misgender them at home and taunt them for being
basically
LGBTQ.
Bully there. Yeah, it basically is like, here, parents, bully your children if they're not doing what you want. If your children are different, force them to submit. Don't let them be themselves. It's they're going to try and say, oh, this is about a parent's rights and parents should be able to raise their children how they want, but at the same time they're trying to keep children or parents from handling their children's health care.
Right.
If you're transgender, they don't want that. They don't want you doing any of that. The transgender kid's health care is always up to the state, but hey, if a parent wants to bully their kid, that's not abuse. You just let them do it. It's just stupid is what it is. We're not hearing I mean, you hear a lot about it, I think, outside of Texas because it is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we're hearing less about it here because I don't think it really has much traction. Now that I've said that, they're going to turn around and pass it,
Right.
just to be obstinate about it. But some of this, every time the legislature is in session, we get this array of idiocy coming after the LGBTQ community in the state, and this is one of those bills.
It's astonishing to me. It's astonishing to me that they don't seem to have any self-awareness. It's like they don't say the argument out loud so that they hear what it sounds like. Do you know what I'm saying?
They don't care.
Or they don't
They
care?
do not care.
Yeah.
This is an attempt by someone who is either part of the lowest common denominator or is playing to the lowest common denominator.
Right.
You say, oh, that politician's just playing to his base, just trying to, get this, get these people, these less educated, perhaps, these less enlightened people, those are the ones he's depending on to keep them in office. So that's what he's doing. That's what this is about.
Wow.
I think we've learned, I mean, Lauren Boebert is in Congress, right? Sometimes they are the lowest common denominator.
Against all odds, she is in
I
Congress.
know. It's like, how? She does. How does she manage to find her office? I don't. It just.
It's probably help
it's
waiting for
astounding
her
to
at the
me.
door.
Yeah. They have her nanny waiting. Okay, Lauren, did you bring your lunch? Come sit here. Don't let your boyfriend sit by you. That's not the place for that.
Yeah. So if that bill, hopefully, fingers crossed, isn't going to go forward, there is one that it looks like it's gone pretty far. I don't know where it is in the final stages, but this is a bill, HB 50, from State Representative Fenton Jones, which would allow HIV testing in Texas when someone is screened for other STDs. Has that passed?
It's passed the House for sure. I'm not sure about the Senate. So I know that it has passed the House. I think that Benton has kind of stayed a little bit low key with it to try and keep the crazies from turning out against it.
Right.
So, I mean, his office has been very good about, hey, this happened. Hey, this passed. Hey, this is where we are, after it's already accomplished that certain step.
Interesting.
This is just a, kind of a common sense bill. There's HIV is not the touchstone it once was in terms of, riling up the conservative base. So it's kind of just cruising along a little bit under the radar there. And I hate to say this, I mean, I think it's a fabulous idea because that's how we're going to stop the pandemic, is by making sure everybody knows their status. You don't know your status unless you're tested. But I have a feeling there may be some out there who see this as a way to, just like they're trying to go through DPS records to find out who tried to change a gender marker, who might be transgender. This is I feel like there's some people who see this as creating a database for them.
I see.
I'm saying that very, very softly.
Well, Tammye,
That's
I'm
worth
sorry.
pointing out.
I'm sorry, Tammye, that we didn't get to have more time with you today. We're definitely going to have you back so we can get a full time with Tammye Nash. You can read all of their reporting at dallasvoice.com. Thanks, everyone, for listening today. The Matt McNeil Show is up next. For folks in Minnesota, stay tuned for Native Roots Radio after that. Until tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.